Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to go over my review of the supremely affordable MS series line of flashes from Godox, and that's all coming up right now. Hey, how's it going? Kyle here, helping you level up your photo, video, and audio. And as always, if you're into those sorts of things, definitely consider clicking that subscribe button and maybe even the bell icon so you can keep track of everything that I'm up to. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the Godox MS300 and MS200. They're both super affordable studio strobes that work on the Godox X wireless network. And while that alone is a pretty good value proposition, it certainly got me excited for the opportunity to take a look at them for myself and review them. I separate reviews and unboxing, so if you're interested in seeing what comes in the box and my initial reactions to the MS300, definitely check that out. I'm going to break this review up into 5 sections. The basic information and specs, the pros, the cons, who this flash is for, and who I think this flash is not for. Before we get started, I want to disclose that I did get this strobe sent to me for review by my partners PerGear, but all of the thoughts and opinions are solely my own. Now keep in mind that throughout this video, I'm going to reference MS300 a lot of times simply because that's the unit that I tested. Unless I specifically call it out, the features on the MS200 will be the same. So let's talk about some of the basic information and specifications of the Godox MS300 and 200. The MS300 is a 300 watt strobe. The guide number is 58 meters at 100 ISO. The MS200 is a 200 watt flash and its guide number is 53 meters at 100 ISO. The power is variable in 50 steps from full power all the way down to 1 30-second power. The recycle time is 1.8 seconds at full power, and the strobe is 5600 Kelvin in color. There is a modeling lamp, as you can see. It's a 150 watt bulb, and it is adjustable in 5% increments, and you can also configure it to either be constantly on or it can dim when the flash actually fires. Ugh, probably shouldn't be staring directly at it. The flash is AC powered only, and you can see that we have it plugged in here in the back. It does come with a cable. It's a pretty long cable. I think it's roughly around 20 feet long, so good on Godox for including a substantial cable. Now, as far as mounts for light modifiers, it does have an integrated Bowens mount adapter. Now, one enormous call, it's probably one of the most important things about this strobe, is that there is no high-speed sync. So the max shutter speed you can use is 1/250th of a second. To trigger the flash, you have 4 options. You have a 2.5 millimeter sync cable, you have a USB wireless control port, you have the optical sensor on top, and of course you can use any of the Godox X wireless triggers or commanders, as I mentioned before. So as you can see here, I got the Godox X Pro, and I have the Godox V1 in commander mode here. Now, when you are using the Godox X wireless system, you have 16 groups to work with and 32 channels across those groups. Now, let's talk about the pros, what I like about the MS300. So I've always thought that Godox delivers a ton of value for the money, and the MS300 is no different. Now, they've packed tons of value in quality and features, basically as much as one could ask for with these price tags. This is going to give folks just getting into studio strobe photography an excellent entry-level system where they can have a crazy awesome and robust wireless triggering system, which leads me to my next point: compatibility with the Godox X wireless network. When things talk together and just work, it's definitely a beautiful thing. And while the Godox X wireless system is not entirely plug and play, it's a very well-developed wireless system. And with all the triggers like the X Pro, the X1, and flash units that can be commanders like the 860 Mark II and the V1, it will either allow this strobe to fit in your existing kit or act as the first flash or next flash. Next is the easy interface. We have a dial and some buttons like I mentioned before. It's not very intricate at all. And I've definitely wrestled with Godox manuals in the past. I didn't have to whip out the manual. I could just kind of fiddle around with this and I figured basically all the features in no time. Next is the build quality. For as inexpensive as a unit is, I was really impressed by the build quality. While it is plastic, it definitely feels solid, and the lamp cover is also super sturdy. It locks in very well. I'm not gonna put it on because I have the lamp. I don't want to melt the darn thing, but that also speaks to the Bowens mount. Things lock in there very solidly. And lastly, the bulbs just work great. Both the actual strobe and the modeling lamp are fairly impressive at this price. Now let's talk about the cons for the MS300. As I mentioned before, with an excellent price comes a fairly steep compromise in feature set. I've touched on this before, but the biggest glaring issue that I have with the MS300 is no high-speed sync. This is the biggest problem for me and is the main shortcoming of the MS300. This is going to limit the MS300's ability to overpower the sun without adding additional kit like neutral density filters, and it will basically be useless at freezing fast motion. Think like dancers or fashion shoots where you're whipping your hair, drunk folks at like a corporate photo booth. This isn't gonna be able to freeze that motion at all. Then again, maybe you don't do any of those sorts of photography, and if you are in a controlled environment with no natural light to overcome, like portraiture or regular fashion photography, you're not gonna be very limited. And I always come back to the price. At this price, the functionality you get is limited. That's just gonna be the way it is. Next is the power controls on this flash. You only have 50 steps of resolution when you're fiddling with the power, and on top of that, the lowest power setting is 1/32. And while that probably might not come up if you're just using, obviously, just this flash, a 1 or 2 light setup, if you have an intricate setup with many different flashes and you're trying to dial in the light and power of all of them in maybe several different wireless groups, so on and so forth, it can be a bother to not have that resolution in power control. And it doesn't appear easy to replace the actual flash bulb. I'm gonna turn off this modeling lamp so I can look around. Whoop, why'd you beep at me? Stop that. So I do not see an easy way to replace this bulb without taking this darn thing apart. So I did have somebody in the comments of the unboxing video for the MS300 say, hey, you are able to replace the bulb. Well, I checked and I double checked what he said. I don't see it. I mean, you clearly have to take the strobe apart in order to get at the connections here. This all leads me to believe that there's something difficult about changing these out. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's definitely going to be more than the average user is going to be willing to do. So I don't know. I mean, if you pop this, say you break it, what do you have to, reach out to Godox to try and do some warranty something, send it in? I mean, I don't know. All right, now let's talk about who I think this flash is for. And this one is pretty simple. This is a budget studio strobe. So the first person is someone brand new to studio strobe photography. This strobe can get someone in the door at a very low introductory cost, especially if you plan to go wired as far as triggering the strobe. And if you want to go wireless, and it's only like another $60 for the Godox X2T trigger, and if you wind up liking studio strobe photography, any investments that you made in light stands, triggers, or light modifiers can be carried over when you upgrade and get a more robust studio strobe. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but don't let money be the reason why you don't start a new hobby, or in this case, a facet of a hobby. The expensive stuff is going to be here when you're ready. For now, get something that's going to get you in the door, taking pictures, and learning the fundamentals. The next person that the MS300 is for is someone who may already own Godox triggers or flashes and just needs something a little bit brighter as far as a budget studio strobe. If you already have some Godox flashes or speed lights and triggers for that matter, and you need to get that one big light to key your frame, then this can be a shoo-in into your setup if all you got to do is pick it up, plug it into your wireless system, and you're off to the races. And again, if you don't always need this much power, this can be a relatively inexpensive option to have in your toolkit, so you can take it out when you do need it, and leave it in your gig bag when you don't necessarily need that much power, or as I mentioned before, high-speed sync. Okay, so who is this strobe not for? First and foremost is seasoned studio strobe photographers. If you're already working with studio strobes and maybe just looking for an additional strobe on the cheap, you're not really going to get excited about the MS300. And while it may integrate into your kit easy, if you're already in the Godox universe, its limitations with no high-speed sync make it a very underwhelming addition, I think, for most people. So if you're in that boat, MS300, not for you. Bonus section. Who is the MS200 for? As I mentioned, there's two models. There's the MS300 and the MS200. I was sent the MS300. The MS200 is the 200 watt version, and it's about $10 less than the MS300, which is 300 watts. So in my opinion, the MS200 is for no one. When I was first looking through all of the specs for the MS Studio strobes, I thought I wasn't reading something right, or like I was otherwise not understanding what I was looking at, because the MS300 was 300 watts at $120, and the MS200, it was $110. Like, why do those two things need to exist? They're so close to each other. At any rate, across all of my research, I cannot understand why Godox released these at such a similar price. I mean, maybe an MS150, an MS300, or basically have more range in between the choices, because with $10 difference, I don't understand. I mean, unless the MS200 decreases in cost or goes on a pretty steep sale, I just don't recommend it. All right, so in conclusion, the MS Studio Strobe line of flashes are an excellent option for someone getting into studio strobe photography. It's an extremely compelling cost, and it combines features that will cover a lot of use cases. There are limitations, but that is totally understandable given the price. And although these limitations may be deal breakers for a few types of photography, those are fairly few and far between for folks that are brand new or even intermediate studio strobe photographers. So if you are looking for that studio strobe to get you in the door, look no further than the MS300. If you're one of those individuals who I recommend this for, go ahead and pick it up. You're not going to regret it. So if you decide to pick up the MS300 or the MS200, I have links in the description down below. Those are affiliate links, so if you use them, it definitely helps my channel out at no additional cost to you. If you have any other questions about the Godox MS line of strobes, definitely leave those for me in the comment section down below. I will do my best to answer any and all questions. And finally, if you like this video, if you thought it was helpful, or if it helped you make a purchase decision, or helped you decide to not purchase the MS300 or 200, let me know by clicking that thumbs up button. And if you thought that it was dumb and I'm dumb and the strobe is dumb, click the other one. Thanks for watching, and until next time, cheers.